original founder. Go for it, my dear.
All right. I'm Rini Das. If I have not met you, we founded Zettabytes today with Lisa Kagi, who is there with her twin, Zax, out there we actually founded it, you know, end of 2019. Our first event was January 30th of 2020. We had a couple of great events at Stonewall. And right after that, the pandemic hit, and the rest we had to go virtual. So here we are. And in my daytime job, I run a management consulting company. And, I've been doing that for a very, very long time, other than doing queer stuff. But here I am. Vinny, you go next.
So my name is Vinny Sanfilippo. Also a co-founder of Zeta Bytes today. I was not one of the original two. That was Rini and Lisa who made the first magic happen. But shortly thereafter, they met me at a meetup event, and they're like, "Yeah, we're gonna bring you into this," and wrote me into it. And here I am too, and haven't been having a great time ever since. My day job is I'm the campus director of Tech Elevator Columbus here in the city of Columbus. I run all of our Columbus campus operations. So get to oversee the education and development of all of our junior developers here in town. It's pretty great. Love every minute of it. So yeah, that's us. Those are your founders here. Shout out to Robin and Dhruva and I think Rachel I see on here as our advisory board members. Thank you so much for coming tonight as well. But we're gonna go ahead and get started. So I would love to bring up one of our guests tonight, Kimberly Sue Griffiths from Octopus. We'd love to learn a little bit more about you and what you do.
Thank you so much. Can everybody hear me?
Yes,
Okay,
we can hear
good.
you.
Yeah, we had to work at this a little bit in practice because WebEx is not. I'm so used to using Zoom, and WebEx has been a little bit of a difficulty for me. So I'm on the phone, audio-wise, and on the video here. So, all right, I will go ahead and get started. The first few concepts on this, just like really just a few sentences, were developed from something called Relational Culture 1 Bonding Practice Participant Guide, and that's published by Relational Uprising 2019. So, placed into a 24-hour time frame, commencing with the formation of our sun and our Earth 30 minutes later, human existence encompasses 4 seconds. If those 4 seconds were placed into a 24-hour time frame, I have been around for about 28 seconds. Among the hominoids that existed 200,000 years ago in Africa, only humans survived. Why? We learned to engage in collaborative interdependence. Today, our survival and that of our planet are in jeopardy of extinction through violence, favoring homogeneity over human and biodiversity. The survival of the fittest is not that of the most competitive, but those who are most adaptable to integrating complexity and coexisting diversity. Although it is unfortunately currently physically necessary due to the pandemic as a rule and overall, we must avoid dehumanizing isolation, which over many years has developed into the socially dominant culture. Clearly, survival demands that we maintain and build connections. That's the part that was from that relational culture. So we must connect with nature as well as with humanity. Building a strong ecological sense of our connection to this planet is vital in connecting with generations to come, responsibly leaving them with even greater opportunities to thrive with a viable planet, with friends, and with loved ones with whom they too can connect. We're only here for a moment, a few seconds in time. May we all learn the true value of connections that provide us with a hope and opportunity for a mutually brighter and more compassionate and loving future. All right, a little bit about myself. I'm an advocate and mentor with my beloved transgender community, living joyfully and authentically full-time since my transition in January 2015. I have a wife of 25 years, 2 children, a daughter-in-law, and 2 grandchildren. receiving incredible family and outside support and respect. I live in Columbus, Ohio, working with my own organization, Octopus LLC, as well as with collaborating and working with the ACLU of Ohio, Trans Ohio, Be Quick, Equitas Health, Equality Ohio, and others. So a little bit about Octopus. I created Octopus LLC on April 18th, 2017, and it's designed both to unite existing communities and to reach out to rural and smaller urban communities where services are completely or largely unavailable. The corporate purpose is as follows. Octopus stands for Organizing Communities, Transgender Outreach, Promoting United Support. This LLC is a transgender community support organization to improve the lives and welfare of people who identify as transgender and gender nonconforming. Organizing goals include networking, improved resource accessibility, outreach to underserved communities, promoting applicable services and support groups, education, and all activities perceived appropriate to carry out these goals. Fundamental dreams and goals are to initiate geographic outreach by creating additional trans peer support groups and coordinating improved resource accessibility statewide. The plan is to work in collaboration with other facilitators and with existing community organizations and resources, such as those in Columbus, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Toledo, Akron, Youngstown, and Dayton. To enhance the viability of this outreach effort, folks need an opportunity to feel supported and to relate to others in the community. I facilitate and or sponsor through Octopus or through Trans Ohio, some of the groups, approximately 10 to 11 monthly trans peer support groups, including a BIPOC group, a non-binary specific group, and 2 groups for transgender incarcerated prisoners at Warren Correctional, a men's prison, and at Dayton Correctional, a women's prison. I am an attorney partner with the incredibly successful Ohio Name Change Legal Clinic, which I've worked with for many years. I also work with community individuals through mentoring and one-on-one. I've had the opportunity to present at several conferences, including the Trans Ohio Symposium, Equitas Health Transforming Care Conference. I was nominated twice for as the Trailblazer nominee. Ohio Recreational Therapy Association Conference, where I was a keynote speaker, the Philadelphia Trans Wellness Conference, and the National Transgender Health Summit in Oakland, California. I've conducted community cultural competency training, including transgender role play encounters for corrections officers in Franklin County through the Sheriff's Department and through the Columbus and the VA and in other localities. I organize periodic transgender community social and recognition events, creating visibility for persons representing vital intersections with the trans community. These include, but are not limited to, community game nights, a trans military recognition night, and 3 transgender and non-binary recognition nights for people of color. These, of course, have been not as actively available since we've been under COVID, but I hope to revive those once we get out of this, and it's safe to again appear working in person. Some things just don't work as well through Zoom or through WebEx. I'm a leadership team member of the Greater Columbus LGBTQ Health Coalition, which meets 6 times a year through Columbus Public Health, and led that or facilitated that group for a period of time when they were between leadership. I'm a steering committee member with the Columbus and Central Ohio LGBTQ Leadership Roundtable. I'll talk a little bit more about this later. I participated in numerous community building discussions focusing on healthcare, racial issues, prison, immigrant, and LGBTQ inequity issues. Participated in marches or rallies against police brutality, prison labor abuse, trans marginalization, and in support of Black Lives Matter. I've also received training as a street medic for mental health first aid and with ACLU Advocacy University. I've been involved with legislative lobbying, served on consulting committees, including those forming policies for improved law enforcement, treatment of trans folks, steering committee for Mosaic Health HIV Initiative, and conference abstract review. I've also been asked to sign up as a reviewer for the legal track of the 2022 Philadelphia Trans Wellness Conference. I was active with the planning for Columbus Community Pride in 2018 and 2019. I compose and compile the Octopus Weekly Bulletin, which I think a few of you receive, which is a trans community resource that consists of information such as community meetings, legislation, different resources that might be worthwhile to people in the community, therapists, et cetera. So through Octopus, I'm hoping to build community cohesion, increased individual and group peer support, localized resource accessibility, networking, and education through rural and smaller urban outreach. I'm incredibly fortunate. As I said, I've got my family support, and most of my friends have supported me. I've lost a few people along the way as far as backing me, but that's, I guess, to be expected. So I'm working to adapt and create models for success with an enhanced online presence being built. I also work with the LGBTQ plus Peace Love program, which is at the Franklin County Jail, which provides an inmate resource presentations and participating in various activities that their leadership and their facilitator puts on. If you've never participated in a jail with a drum circle marching around, I highly recommend it. And have been involved, and they are also involved with various other artistic endeavors. So I'm looking to continue with future social justice support, community organizational collaboration, and social events. I do not have a website. It is under development, and I hope to have that sometime in the near future. One of the things that I wanted to elaborate a little bit on is the work with the Columbus and Central Ohio LGBTQ+ Leadership Roundtable. I know Rennie is heavily involved with that. The steering committee, for most of the time I've been there, has consisted of Chris Kozad, who has been with the Leadership Roundtable for quite a number of years. And the steering committee developed and added Tom Grody, Aaron Hewitt, Siobhan Boyd Nelson, and myself. And recently Tom has stepped away, and we have added Brandon Chapman from Columbus Public Health. So they are a wonderful and great group of people to work with. And the purpose that we came up with is to support and leverage our collective power so that our LGBTQ+ communities, particularly the most marginalized, thrive through access to lived and justice-oriented equality. Just in brief, we also, as part of that, developed a group of values. And
Hey,
we defined those. Yes.
Sorry, can I just add,
Yes.
just for a context for this crowd, because a lot of the folks are not necessarily LGBTQ, especially, or they're in tech.
Okay.
The LGBTQ Roundtable is an organization fairly unique because I have not seen, I think I've seen one in Minneapolis, but it's the go-to organization. It's a sort of a meta organization of all organizations that work in LGBTQIA causes. So whether it be legal issues, whether it be professional issues, whether it be racial justice issues, or any form of justice issues, whether it's trans issues, legislative, political, professional, anybody in Central Ohio who runs an organization, if they're in a leadership position, they participate. It's every 3 weeks or every Tuesday. I think about 12 to 15 meetings a month, and anything that is going on in Ohio is actually brought to the table to discuss that is going to affect the community. And everybody also makes their announcements. And also to add to Kimberly's thing, Zettabytes is represented in that organization. And also BTMO, that is Black Trans Men of Ohio, which Chris Goyne runs and had started, is now represented in that organization. So it's where things get heard, you know, from the mayor to the police chief to everybody comes to that meeting. So just to give the people who are not don't know exactly how these things kind of get versioned, and Kimberly is one of our leading advocates in that committee.
Thanks, Rennie. I appreciate the clarification on that. Yeah, we meet, actually we meet once each month, unless there's a necessity for a special meeting, which did happen this past year. So yeah, the 12 to 15 a year is probably pretty accurate. Yep. As to what we would normally run into. The folks that are part of that we hope to have every organization that works with LGBT issues involved. However, you know, we aren't quite there yet, but we're working to try to be as inclusive as possible and make sure that everyone is represented. And as part of that, we developed some values, and I'm not going to go through the whole definition of these values, but I'll just mention what they are. So we looked at what principles guide us. So through that, we came up with defining the values of justice and equity. And then how do we treat others? Through that, we came up with the definitions and clarification for what we see as respect and inclusion. For how do we work together? The important elements of collaboration and collective power, which gives us more clout, you know, with the situations when we are working to try to influence others on the direction that we see things need to go for the LGBT community. And then there's how do we ensure responsibility? And under that, integrity and accountability are the benchmarks. So this was kind of all developed 2020, 2021. And one of the things we ask folks to do when they join is to fill out a sheet with their values. They're kind of their superpower, and then maybe 4 values kind of that float around that. And so I think it's a good exercise. It gets people thinking about the direction that they where they are, where they want to go, and I think it just helps to nail down some things, and it's just good exercise. A couple of other things that I wanted to mention. Just one of the things that I try to do each week with the bulletin is put a quote of some sort in. I enjoy writing, and they used to be a little longer. Now they're pretty much all short that they'll fit in on Facebook. But one of the things that I had at one point said was, we're all born into disparate circumstances that are beyond our control, dictating the barriers to opportunity that stand in our way. It is time to refocus our corporate and governmental goals away from the accumulation of assets and the stockpiling of financial wealth and toward genuine service to humanity. Until we learn to change our outlook accordingly, our nation and our world will never achieve a level of respect for every individual that holds out real hope for true egalitarian social justice. So just some thoughts on that. I can talk about a few things, some legislation, or we can just go to questions or whatever folks think as far as time goes.
Yeah, I have a question for you. So if we wanted
Sure.
to get involved with Octopus, we want to be an ally in the community and help out in any way we can. What are the best steps for us to do there? Do you have a website for us to sign up, or is there a particular process we should do to help out there?
I just put, see if we got everything. Yeah, I think.
Yep, it's in the chat.
Yeah, I just put the contact information in the chat. Although, yeah, it all got there. Okay, cool. So, I mean, one way would be to get in touch with me. I'd be happy to, if anybody is interested in getting the bulletin, if you decide you get it and you like don't have time to look at it, or you don't want to, you know, it's not helpful to you, or you don't think it's something that you would ever use, just give me an email back and I'll take you off the list. But we're probably at 700, and, yeah, we're at 700 and some at this point. So I'm trying to build that. I found it's also a good way to network. And in some ways, I think it's almost better than a website, because I'm making constant contact each week with those who receive it. So, although I do want to eventually incorporate it into a website. My priority, I guess, has just kind of been working. Okay, yes.
I was just saying, Dhruva, you had a question?
I was just, it was some, you know how sometimes you don't, like, you know, things exist, but you forget about them because they're not in your immediate world and right in front of you. And there's a couple things that you mentioned that you have done, you know, in helping others, especially in the trans community, that like sometimes it just, I just had a wow, you know, like that moment, right? Like when you said you help those that are incarcerated, you know, like obviously our justice system is not concerned about people and their true authentic identity, you know, like that's something that we know these things are in conflict, but it's not really in our immediate face, so we forget about it. And then as you were going on about the legislation and stuff, it just reminded me like, hey, let's all make sure we're, you know, like not just during the election time, but reminding people, hey, make sure you're registered, make sure you're voting, because all of this does impact, you know, at the local level as well, all these things. So it was just like, it just reminded me that, hey, we should always be reminding people to vote.
Exactly. Thank you. And one of the things that I would like to mention that is Ohio House Bill 454, which is known as Leela's Law. It is, they've recently had proponent testimony, and it is unfortunately moving forward. They introduced a bill, the Republicans had introduced a bill to ban trans youth from accessing medical care. So kind of basically, it forbids medical healthcare professionals from providing transitional care to any trans, non-binary, or gender non-conforming person under 18 years old, regardless of parental consent, wishes of the patient, diagnosis, or previous care plan. It does not apply to cisgender persons seeking the same or substantially similar care. It does not apply to intersex people. It forbids insurance from covering necessary care for trans, non-binary, or gender non-conforming minors, contrary to the Affordable Care Act, to Medicaid and to Medicare policy, and to individual provider policy. Parents of trans people pay the same insurance premiums as everyone else and are being categorically denied medically necessary care for their children. It forbids tax deductions for healthcare premiums for transitional care, contrary to the federal tax code. It promotes it says that Ohio physicians could lose their medical license for following current standards of care, despite there being no action from the disciplinary committees of Ohio licensing boards. And it requires staff at all Ohio schools to out students they assume are transgender to their parents or legal guardians, which is definitely a safety issue. So if you get a chance to do a little research on House Bill 454 and maybe look at the community members. I've got information in the bulletin, more information in there. Trans Ohio did a lot of work on putting together some highlights of that. And I know that Quality Ohio was working on that. So it's certainly one of the priorities that we would love to see people write to their legislators and write to the committee and express their
Awesome.
distaste for this. Okay.
Thank you for letting us know about that,
Um,
Kimberly. Thank you for having us or
Sure.
joining us here today. I do have to keep, I mean, I am in charge, the keeper of the time, so to speak. But thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for putting that information up in the chat. Folks, if you're interested in getting involved in Octopus, you have Kimberly's information right there. But thank you so much for joining us here tonight. At
Thank
this
you. I
time,
really appreciate everybody.